Welcome back to day 56. Today, we're diving into some very specific and thought-provoking laws from the Book of Numbers. These laws focus on everything from purity and restitution to unique vows, like the Nazarite vow. There's a lot to unpack here, so let's start with some of the more immediate ones. What stood out to you in Numbers chapter 5?
Oh, definitely the purification and restitution aspects. The chapter talks about the necessity of removing anyone who is unclean, whether due to leprosy, discharge, or contact with the dead, from the camp. It's fascinating how purity is so central to community life. The Israelites believed that impurity could defile the presence of God among them. It really speaks to the level of sanctity they associated with the camp.
Right. It's like maintaining physical purity to preserve spiritual purity. And what's really interesting is the idea of restitution when someone sins against the Lord. The person not only has to confess, but also make restitution, which is something we don't see much of today, especially the add a fifth part. It's almost like a surcharge for sin.
Exactly. The principle of restitution in this chapter is very clear. Not only does the sinner have to make up for the wrong they've done, but they also need to give more, as a kind of penalty. But what struck me even more was the detail in the law of jealousy. The whole ordeal with the suspected unfaithful wife, the water of bitterness, and the curse, it's incredibly detailed and intense.
Yeah, that whole ritual. It's a strange concept for us today. A woman suspected of infidelity could be forced to drink a bitter water concoction that could curse her if she was guilty. It's a really vivid example of how they sought to deal with issues of trust and purity within marriage. What do you think this says about their views on relationships and faithfulness?
Well, it's clear they had a very intense view of faithfulness, both in human relationships and in their relationship with God. The idea of jealousy is elevated to almost a divine level here. Whether the wife is guilty or not, she has to go through this trial. It shows how sacred they viewed marriage and the trust between husband and wife. Also, it's kind of a test of divine justice, right? If she's guilty, she suffers. If she's innocent, she is free. But the fact that this procedure was necessary at all highlights how much control their faith had over even the most personal aspects of life.
That's a good point. It's all about the sanctity of the covenant, whether it's between a person and their spouse or between people and God. It's almost like their community had a very clear, structured way to ensure that nothing impure could contaminate their faith. But then we also see in number 6 with the Nazarite vow, a kind of voluntary separation for holiness. It's such a different approach, right?
Absolutely. It's a voluntary commitment to sanctity. The Nazarite vow, where someone dedicates themselves to the Lord by abstaining from things like wine, cutting their hair, or going near the dead, is about choosing holiness for a period of time. It's like self-imposed holiness. And it's interesting because while the purity laws in chapter 5 are about external purity for the community's sake, the Nazarite vow seems more personal, like an individual's choice to step into a higher state of purity for a while.
It's a fascinating contrast. On one hand, you've got the laws of purity that are mandatory for the whole community, and on the other, you've got the Nazarite vow, which is a personal, voluntary journey. But both ultimately serve the same purpose, keeping that connection with God strong and intact. It's about dedicating oneself, whether through obedience to law or through a vow of separation.
Exactly. And the Nazarite vow also isn't without consequences. If a Nazarite breaks their vow, like by coming into contact with a dead body, they have to go through a cleansing process. The vow can be broken, but there's still a path back to holiness. And when it's fulfilled, they bring their offerings, sin offerings, burnt offerings, peace offerings, to show their dedication.
It's a serious commitment, but it's also clear that God provides a way to make things right. The offerings, the shaved head, and the ritual show a real process of renewal and reconciliation. It kind of reminds me of how, in our own lives, sometimes we take on personal commitments, whether religious or not, and if we fail, we also need a way to restore ourselves.
Yeah, there's something very human about that. It's like you set high standards for yourself, but when you slip up, you need a way to reset, to make amends, and to get back on track. And then you've got this blessing at the end of chapter 6, where Aaron is told to bless the people of Israel. The Lord bless you and keep you, make his face shine upon you. It's such a simple but profound statement, right?
It really is. It's such a beautiful and peaceful blessing. It's all about God's favor and protection. I think the blessing encapsulates the entire message of the book of Numbers. The Israelites are a chosen people, and God is providing for them, spiritually, physically, and relationally. Even in the midst of laws and rituals, there's a constant reminder of God's presence and care.
And that's something we all need to remember, whether it's through rules, rituals, or vows. The heart of it is to stay in tune with God's will and His guidance. Those blessings remind us that in the end, it's about God's care and our relationship with Him.
Couldn't have said it better. As we wrap up, it's clear that these chapters offer not only practical guidelines, but also deep spiritual lessons about holiness, trust, and the importance of maintaining a pure relationship with God and with others. It's fascinating to see how these laws were about more than just behavior. They were about building a community that honored God in every way.
Definitely, it's a reminder that purity, vows, and even jealousy, all of these are about aligning oneself with God's purpose. Whether we're talking about marriage, personal vows, or community rituals, it's all about staying connected to what matters most. Thanks for a great conversation.
Absolutely. And to all our listeners, we hope this sparked some interesting thoughts on how these ancient laws still have relevance in shaping how we think about relationships and holiness today. Thanks for tuning in. God bless.